Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your email question line for pricing and purchase questions concerning this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing the DB25 Starry Sky moon phase from de Bethune of Lauberson, Switzerland. This DB25 moon phase Starry Sky is 44 millimeters in white gold by 12.8 millimeters thick by 51 millimeters lug to lug with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Unlike the DB27s and the DB28s with their floating lug profile, the DB25 family is a little bit more conventional in how it looks and how it wears, which makes it a great point of entry for fans of the brand who want to get into the brand for the first time. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see it's a good fit. Though it is a 44 millimeter, it's pretty thin in profile, and with a rounded bezel, it does slide underneath the cuff. It's fairly broad from lug to lug, though, so I'd recommend a wrist no smaller than 15 centimeters circumference for wearing this watch with a good proportion and sense of fit and comfort. Taking a quick look at the strap, let's look at the hardware and the software. You can see this is a lovely double alligator leather strap, and you can see on the top, large rectangular scale. There is a sheer cut side showing the layers of construction, a monotone stitch, all navy blue, and then you can see that it is a tapered cut. You'll also appreciate that there is small scale alligator leather on the bottom, and this is something you'll see on the best straps. LU Chopard and FP Journe come to mind, because the gator on the bottom means that the strap wears more evenly and lasts longer. We have a matching white gold pin buckle, and as you can see, it is de Bethune branded inside. The case itself is simple, but it has a few nods to the company's history, notably in the ends of the lugs. You can see this ogival or torpedo-shaped end cap. That little end cap to the lug is the last stylistic vestige of the original 2002 DB1 chronograph designed by David Zanetta, one of the founding partners in the company. So we have a few nods to history, but for the most part, this model line, which first debuted back in 2007, is a conventional round watch with lovely but spare lugs, a handsome drilled crown. You can see it's been drilled around its circumference, and then a minimal bezel with a few quadroons running along the case line to give it some definition. You can see it has that warm white gold look, and then there's a pusher adjuster on the flank for the moon phase. The moon phase be adjusted no more frequently than 122 years, so each 122 years you will make one corrective adjustment to the moon phase. You can also see that the dial, which, like the case and the movement, is built in-house by de Bethune, is entirely fired blue titanium. So de Bethune has patented a process for fire bluing titanium the way some manufacturers fire blue steel screws. So there's a lovely lustrous black polished base as well as toroidal hour track with polished cabochon for the hours. And then if you look closely at the center dial, what appears to be a leaf in gold is actually a constellation of tiny white gold cabochon that are inserted by hand into holes drilled into the dial. So all of these little celestial bodies are in fact white gold cabochon placed by hand. Now there is a custom touch that was added for the original owner of the watch. I'm going to get as close as I can, but there is a little character riding a rocket into space, and the initials CP are engraved by hand into the dial adjacent to this little guy. So it's a wonderful and perhaps evocative element that lets you know this watch has had a history before. And as we do pre-owned watches at Watchbox, every piece has a story. Now, turning over, you can see the movement is what de Bethune does best. Now, a lot of times, because the DB28s are so extravagant and extravagantly futuristic on their open dials, we lose sight of the fact that these movements, though technically advanced and perhaps unconventionally shaped, are very conventionally finished and in the best traditions of Swiss high horology. You can see here, caliber 2105, manufacture movement with a manual wind 6-day power reserve, twin mainspring barrels, and a power reserve indicator. It features all black polished bridges and plates. You can see that everything is literally mirror polished the way it would be on, for example, tiny components like the swan's neck regulator of a Longa or the screws of a Patek Philippe. But instead of tiny components here, black polished and finished with diamond paste, we have that remarkably difficult mirror shine specular finish over the entire movement, including the bracing bridge for the shock protection springs. Now, what's patented here? Well, there's the patent for the moon phase, which is spherical. It's made of 1/2 blued steel and 1/2 white palladium, patent for that. There is a fired titanium blue dial, patent for that firing technique. You have a patent for the twin self-adjusting barrels, a patent for the 1, 2, 3 shock protection systems, on the triple parachute shock protection. You have a patent for the balance, which is original. It's a solid disc of silicone with a white gold rim, an aerodynamic balance that has very little thermal reactivity, so its coefficient is limited. It doesn't expand or contract with hot or cold, so it maintains outstanding isochronous behavior. And then, of course, all of its mass, or as much as possible, not all of it, but most of it, is concentrated in the rim, where it can do the most work keeping your watch accurate. You'll also note the hairspring. It has a dog-leg kink because it's actually two hairsprings clamped together and formed by hand to beat concentrically like an overcoil, but without the height and shock susceptibility of an overcoil. It beats sway at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and you can see there is a silicone escape wheel for reduced friction and improved power reserve, and that is all of de Bethune's own design. You'll also note, and I mentioned traditional high horology, that there is mirrored anglage a mile wide on the edge of the barrel bridge, and that the screw heads have been black polished. There's also satination on the barrels as well as the wheels of the train, and it is absolutely singular, as no one else is making watches that look like this. My favorite independent, and one that only makes at most 150 watches a year, de Bethune, and this is the DB25 Moon Phase Starry Sky.